Today on MuscleCar, tubes, tubs, and rails. Altered Ego's getting stronger by the minute with custom-fabbed frame rails and a roll cage, plus a devilish Dodge that packs real performance in a small package.
Hey guys, welcome to the shop. Today we're working on our 64 Comet AFX car. I just about got the side trim holes here filled in and Brent's finishing up the tubs. Now when it's done, this car will be the first car ever on the entire power block to hang the wheels out on the track and on the street. But there's a lot of stuff that's got to happen between now and then. Last time we got it blown apart and got right to business moving the rear end up 16 inches. The rear section was taken back out and narrowed 4 inches to make room for the tubs. With the rear section back under the car, 2-inch strips are being added to each side to make room for the massive drag tires. Now once the tubs are welded in, some braces are added to keep it all in place. Now the factory frame rails ended up here, which was fine for the 220 horse that this thing originally came with, but to stand up to the abuse that we're going to be dishing out, we need to tie the entire chassis together. Now of course it's going to be getting a full roll cage, but we're also going to take 2x4 box tubing, lay them into this front frame rail and tie them into the back. But before we can do that, we got to get some of the sheet metal out of the way. Now the plasma cutter is a great tool, but you got to remember it basically liquefies metal and everything else in its way. Yeah, including hidden seam sealer.
That was hot.
Get some gloves. Safety first. One more time. Now I feel indestructible. Once the old rails are cleaned up, I'll cut off the ends so we can lay the new rails in. Before we start making anything, some planning's in order.
Like where it comes back here, because we got the 2x4. We can take the tubing right there. We got 2 inches in there.
Yeah. This one here is shallow.
On this end here, we can slice this and pinch that in to match it. Yeah, we basically just have to figure out the angle and put a little bit of a Z in it. Yeah, once we get the Z, then we can pie cut it, take that piece and raise it up and slide it into that one. Give it a shot.
Now since the front and the rear frame rails aren't in alignment, we're going to have to Z our new center section here. And we've laid the whole thing out on cardboard so we can see exactly where our cuts are going to be. Now the key to getting this thing to line back up is going to be the distance between those cuts. So before I do anything, I'm going to lay it out on the steel. Whatever your total angle is, the cuts will be half of that. So, since our total angle is 45 degrees, I'm setting the saw to 22.5. This one is ready, so while I'm cutting the pieces for the other side, Brent's going to start getting this one put together. He's beveling the edges with a grinder to give the welds more area to fill. Since the old front rails are shallower than the back, I'm going to have to modify the new ones to match. Now I could just notch it and weld it, but a right angle cut would leave a weak spot. So I'm going to create a gradual taper by using a pie cut along the side and reattaching the top. And after a little bit of cleanup, they drop right into place. The factory rails were only about 1/8 of an inch wider, so C-clamps pulled it all together. And once we got them fit, we melted them into place. And Now that we got the center part of our frame here tied together, we can start designing our roll cage. Now first thing we're going to do is come in here with some 1/8" plate on each side. Then from there we'll come across with some 2x4 box tubing. Now that'll give us a good strong place to attach the front part of our roll cage to. Now in the back here we're going to do the same thing, some 1/8" plate with some 2x4 box tubing, and that'll give us a good strong anchoring point to come in with our main hoop. There's a few different ways you could strengthen the attaching points. But this car probably won't be the fastest thing on the track, so rather than use 1/4" plate or maybe some box tubing, we're going to keep the weight down by reinforcing the rockers with 1/8" plate. The important thing is that you don't butt weld the braces directly to the rockers, because if you ever flip it on its lid, well, the body could tear right off the cage. To make the front braces, I'm using the same technique as I did for the center rails, slicing out a pie cut and using clamps and a welder to give it that gradual taper. To keep the frame as strong as possible, I'm cutting a notch in the original rail for the new one to slide into. Now when you're building a one-off car, you're going to end up with a lot of one-off parts. Now since our factory frame rails are actually sitting lower than our rockers, our new braces ended up with a pretty mean contour. Now once we got these welded in, we're going to start laying out a roll cage. Stick around.
Up next, Ian from Xtreme 4x4 drops by to show how a roll cage is designed.
Hey, welcome back. Ian here had some pity on us and he came down to help us lay out the roll cage in our Comet. So it looks like a pretty cool program you got going here.
Yeah, I've got hooked on it, I use it all the time. It's BendTech Pro. Once you got the die locations programmed in, which we just did on this piece of 1 3/4 tubing, this will be real simple to use. With some easy measurements, we'll be hooped up in no time.
So what's step one here?
All right, we'll start. We're just gonna make a simple hoop, main hoop, start with. We'll just be coming off the floor, over across the roof and down. So the first thing we need to know is how wide we need that hoop to be, how wide it has to be at the top, and how tall it has to be, and the program will just give us bend locations for the tubing.
Okay, what if we want to come in, because we want to come up on the quarter panels and kick it in a little bit.
We'll just pick an offset hoop, or double bevel hoop like that. And we're gonna work on outside dimensions only on here.
There you go, yeah.
Makes life simpler. We've got the tooling already programmed in. I need to know height from the floor to where you want it to go in, the height from where you want it to go into the roof, width at the roof of the narrowed version, and then the width of the floor.
Gotcha.
All right, the number one question we need to know right away is, we're not building like for an NH or actual spec class, right? We're just building just a cool cage.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about a rule, but we got to worry about it being safe.
Yeah. Right.
So the nice thing about this is we'll try to tuck the cage up nice and high into here and keep it up there. So the first measurement we got to do is we got to go all the way across the bottom on the floor here.
Did you go outside to outside?
Well, where the computer program set up to take an outside dimensions, that'll be 55 inches. I would go 54, that'll give you 1/2 inch on your side to get a welder around on the inside. So we'll call the bottom measurement 54. Now, Rick, you wanted to go up and then in right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just go up and measure to the point where you want to start going in.
24 inches.
So it's 24 inches to the bend, and then measure straight up to the ceiling. Put 39 to the roof, Brent, and then let's just go across the top, 47 inches. That'd be pretty good. Start across the floor, Brent.
Floor would be 54 inches.
Okay, across the roof.
47 inches.
Height from to the first bend,
24 inches.
and the total height to the roof.
Be 39 inches.
All right, so we're gonna cut it at 93 1/16, and I'll just give you those are the locations of the bends, and those are the angles. We'll cut it, throw it in, bend it.
Sweet. Ooh.
Then we'll see if it worked. We'll either have a hoop or a piece of scrap.
With all our measurements taken and bends figured out, it's time to start making the hoop. We're using 1 3/4 inch tubing and cutting it to length on the cold saw.
Okay,
All right, what do we do?
put an X on that end up there, because that's the end that all your bends have to be pulled from, just so you remember it. Okay, mark that thing at 7 3/8. Okay, next mark is at 17 7/8, 61 3/4. And then the last one is 78 3/4.
We need to bend to 13 degrees here, but Ian suggested taking it up to 17 because it's gonna spring back some.
Looking for the second mark. Okay. Stand back and make sure that it's like in line. Okay, stop. That's going to be 45, 65, 70. Ideally what you want is you want this piece right now and this piece to be almost at a 90. We're going to come all the way out to the next mark. Okay, there's the next mark. Okay, don't release it. And what we'll do is we'll measure across. Yeah, so we're gonna throw a couple more degrees on that. We're gonna take that a little bit further. Okay, stop. Yeah, we're good.
57.
Yeah, we're good on that. Go right in front of that floor one you got there. That one we're gonna have to trim down. What you'll have to do is, it's still a little sprung. Just throw a ratchet strap on it and suck it in a little bit. So pull it out, trim it, get it in, tack it, and then I'll loan you my computer and you can start on the door bars. And if you got any problems, come get me next door.
Cool.
Beauty, guys.
We'll probably come get you in a little bit.
All right, man.
Once we get the excess trimmed off, it fits just right. Now, like Ian said, it sprung out a little wider than we want, but the ratchet strap will suck it in just enough for us to tack it in place. We got our numbers running a tubing marked, and we're gonna make our first attempt here at bending some door bars. So stick around, we'll see how many pieces of scrap we end up with before we get it right.
After the break, find out why this little Dodge is hell on wheels. Today's Flashback, a 1971 Dodge Demon 340.
If you were a young guy or gal in the 70s and were itching for a performance car that wouldn't burn a hole in your wallet, the 71 Dodge Demon 340 was one hell of a bargain. At a base price of around $2,700, the Demon packed a lot of power in a small package. With the standard 340 V8 under the hood, this little imp was officially rated at 275 horsepower. The 315 horse was closer to the truth. The secret to its strength was its compact size. At just 3,250 pounds, it was a good 300 to 400 pounds lighter than the more powerful muscle cars of its day. This gave it roughly 1 horsepower for every 10 pounds of car weight. A stock Demon like this one could hit 60 miles an hour in less than 8 seconds and do the full quarter mile in under 15.
This car is really a blast to drive. It's a lightweight car with a lot of motor in it, and that's what made those cars fun.
The late 60s saw a 50% increase in the compact market. Plymouth had great success dropping a big engine in the small car with its 70 Duster. So Dodge decided to copy this idea in '71 and transformed its own Dart Swinger 340 into a coupe and branded it the Demon 340. At 108 inches, this was the first true compact wheelbase for the Dart since it debuted in 1963. The Dodge boys imped out the Demon 340 with a fastback roof, blacked out grille, rally wheels, and performance stripes down the side with a black stripe across the taillight panel. Oh, and don't forget those hot Demon badges with the Smiling Devil and Pitchfork M. So what makes this Demon stand out?
This little Demon has a unique color. A lot of the Demons were a B5 blue. This one is a little lighter color on this car. This car is a highly optioned car. It has a factory tack in it.
Other factory options included air conditioning, a black vinyl roof, chromed hood pins, and dual hood scoops. Now all Demon 340s came with a rally suspension package. When combined with that 340 wedge, made this car a real hell on wheels.
You pull out on the road, you nail the throttle in this thing, and it roasts the tires and it hits second gear. It's a good feeling to have.
Sadly, all that good feeling wasn't enough to drive up sales, and only about 10,000 were built in '71.
The Demon name was frowned on by a lot of people. Maybe churchgoers, who knows.
It may have been a controversial name, but not compared to what the Dodge boys wanted to call it originally. The Beaver. In the history of muscle cars, the Dodge Demon 340 is a true rarity. Like a lot of muscle cars, many of them have been lost forever. With all that could have happened to this car, we're really lucky that this little demon got saved. Well, we did pretty good on these door bars. The first one is in and looking killer, and the second one is bent and ready to go. It's got to go down through the dash, so Brent's going to get the hole cut, and then we can get it set in there and see how it looks. If I followed Ian's directions, this thing should slide right in place.
Cool, perfect.
I'm going to notch it to fit the main hoop, so I'm marking the length of the bar and the angle of the cut, then trimming off the excess. The tubing notching makes it pretty easy. Just clamp the tubing in, check your angle, and you're set. I'll clean up the edges with a grinder, then we'll see how it fits. The notch was right on. We can tack it in place and move on to building the rest of the cage. Right there, perfect. Hey, not bad for a couple of guys that never done this kind of thing before. All right, we did get some help, but sometimes you need to know when to ask for advice. Now, we're out of time for today, but we're going to keep rolling on this cage, taking it one piece at a time. So for now, we're out of here.
Got it?